I sat at the vanity, letting the makeup artist dab powder on my cheeks. Today was my wedding day, and I was about to marry Felix Howard, the crippled, illegitimate son of the Howard family, one of New York's wealthiest dynasties. My stomach churned as I stared at my reflection, the white dress feeling more like a straitjacket than a dream. A month ago, Felix was still my sister Tiffany's fiancé, promised to her since we were kids through some old-school family alliance between the Portmans and the Howards. But when Felix rolled back into the picture last year, skinny, pale, and hobbling on a bad leg, Tiffany threw a fit. No way was she tying herself to that cripple, she'd said. So my parents, desperate to keep the deal alive, dragged me back from my quiet life upstate to take her place. The door creaked open and Tiffany strutted in, her stilettos clicking like gunfire on the hardwood. She smirked down at me. "Coco, you're finally marrying Felix. Happy?" I met her gaze in the mirror, keeping my voice icy. "Oh, I'm thrilled. Just hope you don't regret it later." She doubled over laughing, clutching her stomach like I'd told the world's best joke. Regret? Why would I miss out on dumping that loser? My life's only going up from here. I smirked back, raising an eyebrow. "Don't get too comfy, sis. Things can change." She didn't know what I did. In my last life, Felix did marry her. He built an empire, only for her to stab him in the back, leaking secrets to his half-brother Henry until Felix crashed and burned, dead before 30. But now? I'd been reborn. And from the way Felix moved, the glint in his eyes, I was starting to think he had too. This time I wasn't here to play nice. I was here to rewrite the ending. The wedding was a circus. Guests in tuxes and gowns whispered behind their champagne flutes as Felix rolled down the aisle in his wheelchair, his face gaunt but his jaw set. I stood tall beside him, ignoring the pitying stares. We said our I-dose, and just like that, I was Mrs. Felix Howard. Afterward, we moved into a sleek brownstone in Brooklyn. Felix hauled himself up from his chair, limping toward me with a scowl. I reached to steady him, but he swatted my hand away. "I don't need your pity." I didn't flinch. "We're married now. That makes us a team. Deal with it." I guided him to the couch anyway, and after a beat, his glare softened. "Thanks, Coco," he muttered, almost too quiet to hear. Next day, we visited the Howard mansion up in Westchester. Mr. Howard, Felix's dad, greeted us with a handshake and a smile. He'd always felt bad for sidelining Felix, the kid he'd only claimed after years of neglect. Mrs. Howard, Henry's mom, was a different story. She wrinkled her nose like weed tracked in mud. "If the invalid stayed home, fine. But dragging your bad luck here? My Henry doesn't need that." Henry, lounging nearby, flashed a smug grin. Felix went pale but stayed quiet. I wasn't having it. I plopped a slice of steak on Felix's plate and grinned. "Eat up, honey. Gotta stay strong for the kids we're gonna have." The room froze. Mrs. Howard's fork clattered. Felix blinked at me, then smirked and slid some mashed potatoes my way. She stormed off, muttering about her delicate nerves. And I knew I'd just made an enemy. Tiffany didn't waste time stirring the pot. A few weeks later, she barged into my design studio downtown, tossing her Gucci bag on my desk and scattering my sketches. "Coco, let's talk. Felix is a wreck, crippled, illegitimate. You know Henry's the one who'll run the Howard empire." I crossed my arms. "Spit it out, Tiffany. I've got work to do." She leaned in, all fake sweetness. "Henry wants you on his team. Ditch Felix, pass us some dirt, and you'll come out on top when he takes over." I laughed in her face. "You're asking me to break the law? For Henry? I'm telling Felix everything." Her eyes blazed. "You'll regret this, Coco." "Pretty sure you will first," I shot back, nodding to security as they hauled her out. Things escalated at the Howard New Year's dinner. Henry cornered me in the bathroom, pinning me against the sink. "Last chance, Coco. Join me. Felix can't give you what I can. Get off me." I shoved back, but he grabbed harder, his breath hot on my neck. I screamed and the door flew open. Felix stumbled in, fury in his eyes. Henry let go, smirking. "She came onto me. Bro said you're not man enough." Felix didn't even blink. "I believe her." Mr. Howard stormed in, red-faced, and Henry spun his lies, but Felix cut through the noise. "I'm done. I'm leaving the family, starting my own company. Keep your precious F group." We walked out and I could feel the shift. Felix was ready to fight. He didn't just fight, he won. His startup took off and within 2 years he was a name in New York. At an auction, he snagged a chunk of land by an old sewage plant for $1 million. Henry laughed in his face. Until the city bought it for $5 million to build a subway hub. I watched Felix's calm confidence and knew he'd been reborn too. Tiffany, meanwhile, came crawling back. I caught her in his office purring, "Felix, it should have been me. I'll be yours now." I stepped out from behind the door, munching sunflower seeds. "What's this? You want to be his side chick?" She lunged at me but Felix blocked her. "Ask my wife. She runs the show." I grinned. "Sorry, Tiff. No openings." She stormed off fuming. Henry's final play came the night Mr. Howard died. Felix got a frantic call. His dad was on his last breath. We raced to the estate, but Henry blocked me at the door. "Family only." I paced outside, gut twisting. Then cops swarmed in, cuffing Felix for tax evasion and money laundering. Henry smirked as they dragged him away. Mr. Howard flatlined in the chaos, and I was left reeling. Next morning I found our house trashed, Felix's files gone. Security footage showed Tiffany sneaking in. She'd sold us out to Henry for a marriage promise. I was ready to lose it until Felix walked free acquitted. Henry, though, arrested for stealing secrets and framing his brother. Outside the precinct, Felix pulled me into his arms under a flickering streetlight. I knew Henry's guy was in my team. Kept him close to trap him. "You should have told me," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "No more secrets," he promised, standing tall, no limp, no weakness. "Henry's gone for good." I sank into his chest, the autumn wind biting but his warmth steady. Reborn or not, we'd won. And now our real life could begin.